Well, good evening. Welcome to Stab the Dragon for another whiskey review, number 21, the Sexton Irish Single Malt. We've been taking a break from the Fort Worth area whiskeys, the North Texas whiskeys, and we've done actually several in a row that are different now, but two in a row that are Irish. A couple of weeks ago, we let out a video on Proper 12 Irish whiskey, and this week it is the Sexton Irish Single Malt. And there's a relationship between those two that we'll discover. So Proximo Spirits is the major company behind the Sexton, and Bushmills is the distillery that puts it out under the expertise of master blender Alex Thomas, one of the few female master blenders in the whiskey industry. Now, this is a relatively new brand that hit the markets in 2018, so it's been, 4 years ago or so. Still considered to be new, but it is the #1 selling Irish single malt in America. And while Bushmills is the oldest licensed distillery in the world, apparently, two new whiskeys have come from this distillery in recent years, about the last 4 years. Proper 12, again, which I reviewed a couple of weeks ago, and now the Sexton. And so the reason for such a name as the Sexton is that Alex Thomas spent some time in Spain. And she spent some time with a church warden there who shared some sherry wine with her from Olorosa. And this led to producing this sherry cast single malt and the name, the Sexton. But what is a sexton, I guess you could ask? A sexton is an old church name for the guy who kept up the church, the churchyard, the building, rang the bells, took care of the church cemetery, even digging the graves and burying the dead. And so that pertains to the bottle and the marketing below. But that's where the name came from, and that's where the whiskey has come from. So Proximo Spirits is the owner. I guess they own Bushmills. Yeah, they bought Bushmills, I think, in 2014. And then Bushmills let Master Blender Alex Thomas make this whiskey through Bushmills. And so there you go. We've got the Sexton. There you go. So for the history of this whiskey, I can only give 3 out of 5 points because it just doesn't have a whole lot of history. I mean, there's some coolness to the history. I like the use of the name, the Sexton. That's kind of a good name. But this is they did kind of obscure the sourcing of the Sexton. I guess there's legal technicalities involved with all that. I know that Conor McGregor and Proper 12 did the same thing, but we're able to find out, through various means. We found out that Alex Thomas had worked for Bushmills for a long time. Proximo owns the Sexton. Proximo owns Bushmills. So, there you go. But so history, 3 out of 5 points. Marketing, packaging, and the bottle. I think I have seen some advertising for the Sexton, or at least I saw numerous reviews of the whiskey in my research. And there's several articles out about it, certainly. It does seem to have made a bit of a splash for being an Irish single malt that's aged in sherry casks. But the bottle alone, you can look at this bottle and say, man, I've never seen a whiskey bottle like this. The bottle alone drew a large part of the attention to this brand. It's this short, squatty, 6-sided thing. It's black glass. You can't even see, it's not even smoky. I mean, it's just solid. You can't see the whiskey at all in there. And you've got this skeleton figure here. Let me see if you can see that there's the skeleton wearing a hat. There's a skeleton here on the bottle wearing the hat, and then on the side you've got a kind of a skeleton guy driving a cart like that. So, you know, that's all reference to, I guess, the nature of a sexton burying the dead. So the bottle is clearly unusual. And I think this kind of bottle does a great marketing job. People are going to look at that and say, what is in there? And so I think the bottle alone is worth investigating. Now my bottle came equipped with a small tag with some advertising points on it. There's the tag. And what it says is Whiskey Advocate rating, 89 points. And then underneath in smaller print, it says Tullamore Dew, 12-year-old Special Reserve, 80 points. Jameson, 82 points. So, you know, this is just like heavy on the look at us, we're better than the other guy kind of a thing. You open it up and it says the Sexton is a small batch Irish single malt, triple distilled for smoothness in copper pot stills and aged to perfection in European oak, seasoned sherry casks. Crafted by one of the few female master blenders, Alex Thomas. The Sexton is a balanced and approachable whiskey. So this, you know, and the rest of the bottle's got all kinds of cool stuff on it too. It says, up in the cold gray northern reaches, County Antrim. I have to get my magnifying glass out here. Alongside St. Column's Rill, the Sexton selects the best strains of barley for malting, patiently distilled in copper pot stills to create precious elixir. The Sexton whiskies, smooth and flavored single malt of intriguing complexity. So there you go. You know, it's heavy on the self-praise there, which all whiskeys are. Let's see the other side. Show up before dawn and you'll catch on the cool morning breeze the unmistakable oak from breathing casks once filled with Spanish sherry, now brimming with aqua vitae. Steal a drop, savor the notes of rich dried fruits and complexity. Driven by years in deep oak-encased slumber, you see, to be the Sexton is a spiritual trade, and whiskey is his favorite spirit. Okay, so there's the bottle. Lot of cool stuff there on the bottle. All in all, you know, the website is also very informative and attractive. So for marketing, packaging, bottle, and it's a real cork. I think that's a real cork. So all that combined together, I'm going to say 5 out of 5 points for marketing and packaging and bottle. Composition. Information is all up front for this whiskey, except for officially naming the distillery that birthed it. But that was easy enough to figure out. Alex Thomas, the longtime employee at Bushmills and Proximo. So, you know, Sexton is a Bushmills Distillery product. The 750 milliliter bottle says this is 40% ABV. It's a single malt, triple distilled in copper pots and aged in sherry casks. It uses the finest Irish barley. The website adds that it was aged for 4 years and Irish malted barley, I should say. But not peated. The website says, but not peated. So, you know, this this is very different from the scotches that I've had, single malt scotches. I mean, this is really, this is kind of a standalone. I mean, I've never tasted anything like this, actually. It's very different from scotches. It's different from all the other Irish whiskeys that I've tried. So for clarity in composition, I'm going to have to give it a 15 out of 15. But here's the deal. In my rating scheme, single malts have an advantage on this section in my reviews because American bourbons or blended Irish or scotches, they don't have this advantage because you're going to get a very limited mash bill. Whereas with a single malt, it's like, hey, we use Irish malted barley. Well, there you go. That's the whole mash bill. And copper pot stills, So um, those kind of things make this an easy rating. So 15 points for composition. Let's talk about the appearance of this whiskey. And again, it's a solid black bottle, so you can't see the whiskey. And that's kind of a negative, I think, for a lot of people. But the coolness of the bottle outweighs that. So let's hold up my Glencairn here. And you can see that it's definitely a little bit darker than a lot of other blended scotches or blended Irish, or even this is probably about as dark as a lot of American bourbons. So this is reasonably dark here. The sherry finish, I think, gives it a red tinge. You can kind of see that. And I think if you look at the Bushmills product, the basic Bushmills versus the Black Bush, you can see the color difference. And I think that's what you see here, is that the sherry cask that is affecting this is pretty significant. So it's got decent legs in my glass. And all in all, I think its appearance is a 3 out of 5. Maybe no, I want to up that. I want to say a 4 out of 5. I'm reasonably impressed with that appearance. So 4 out of 5 for how it looks. Aroma and nose. Now my terribly inadequate nose can't smell much of anything in this glass. Okay? I mean, I get a hint of something vague. Smells like whiskey. I don't know. But the little tag on this bottle says the nose, honeyed malt, nut, marzipan, allspice, and fruits. I might go with the fruits. I think, with Bushmills, I can certainly smell the malt in the apples. I mean, Bushmills I can smell right away. So I'm not sure why I'm having trouble here with this one. This is the tail end of the bottle, though. That could be a problem. I've had this bottle for over a year. So, I'm getting maybe a faint hint of fruit, maybe apple. But to be fair, because of an inadequate nose, I'm going to say 7 out of 10 for aroma. Well, now the all-important category of taste. Cheers. This is a very pleasant, lightly sweet, a touch of honey, I think hints of citrus, maybe. Now, some say they get peach, even raisins and figs. Here in this little note here, it says, at first mellow honey malt and then rich dried spices, nuts, and sweet oils. Maybe. The malt is really faint. I mean, again, this is so different from the scotches that I've had. And this is the only single malt Irish I've ever had. All the other Irish whiskeys I've had are blends. So this is so different for me. And to me, that's very attractive. I like that. I like something that's mildly sweet and different. Okay, I mean, really, this stands kind of alone. So, again, I've opened that bottle just over a year ago, but I think it still tastes fine. I don't think it's weak or anything like that. But I got to tell you that when I taste Irish whiskey, in all the categories of whiskey that I've done, Scotch, Irish, Canadian, American whiskeys, bourbons, rye, Texas whiskeys, Tennessee whiskeys, Irish, if they're all on my shelf, I'm reaching for Irish last. And it's not because I think they're bad. It's just there's not much that reaches out and grabs me. I mean, Texas whiskeys are probably my favorite, but Irish, they're pleasant, they're genteel, they're you know, they're just kind of a bit boring, maybe. I don't know. But so I'm going to say for the taste, I'm going to give it a 19 out of 25 points. It's good. It's pleasant. I like it. No real criticism there, but it's just kind of there. But it is, of Irish whiskeys, though, it is unique. So 19 out of 25. Mouth feel and finish. This is a pretty smooth, typical smooth Irish whiskey, even if it's a single malt. Now it's got a little bit of a more of a kick, very similar, I might add, to Proper 12. Proper 12's got a little bit more of a kick for an Irish whiskey. So it's, it doesn't feel thin. It's smooth. It's not real thin. I've had some that maybe were a bit creamier. There's not really a burn so much as a tingle. I get a very pleasant tingle. If I hold it in my mouth a little bit longer, it does get up in my sinuses a little bit, which I enjoy. Okay, that for me, that's a positive thing. So it's got more character, I think, than some other Irish whiskeys. I just get a tad of a hint of alcohol. If I hold it in my mouth too long, that alcohol gets up there in the sinuses. But all in all, the mouthfeel and finish, I'm going to say is 12 out of 15. There's absolutely no burn. No burn going down. No Kentucky hug. Price, value, and availability. Total Wine's got this for $24.99. Specs for $24.18 and Goody Goody for $25.99. I don't remember where I got this a year ago. I really don't. But those prices sound about right. I think that's about what I paid. Maybe a little bit more. I think it could have been closer to 27 when I got it. But for this whiskey, for this Irish single malt, these prices are actually pretty darn good. If you compare it with Bushmills Black Bush for $28.99 at Goody Goody, $32.39 at Specs, or $28.99 at Total Wine, this is actually a very good deal, I think. And so now I've never had Bushmills Black Bush. I've only had the basic Bushmills, and then I've had Proper 12, and all these are kind of related. They're cousins. So maybe this isn't a fair comparison. Maybe I would need to get that Black Bush and do a side by side. But I really kind of think that the Sexton is the better deal. And so for price, value, and availability, I'm going to have to say 10 out of 10. I think it's a very good whiskey for the value. Definitely. I mean, it's a budget whiskey. It's a budget Irish. It's a sherry cask single malt. It's good. It's definitely worth the price. Neat or mixer? Well, now I drink all my whiskeys neat. That's just me. I don't even add ice cubes, but I think this one's got clearly enough character and enough flavor to stand up in a cocktail very well. And there's no need to hide anything. Sometimes you have a whiskey that's just bottom shelf and it's not really good, and you want to, just consume alcohol, I guess, and so you hide it in a cocktail. That's not this at all. This is actually a good sipping whiskey. I could definitely sip on this all evening. But if you want to make a cocktail with it, I think it's really got the characteristics that you would want. That sherry finish maybe come through. It's got that little bit of a tingle that comes with it. So really, I'm going to say 4 out of 5 as a neat or mixer. And so let's look at bonus. I have a final category of 5 points bonus. And I'm going to say as a pleasant drink, 2 out of 5 for bonus. maybe even, I want to say 3. I mean, man, I mean, the bottle just really kind of wins me over. Just is a cool bottle. And it's a very good product. So, yeah, 3 out of 5. I've upped a couple of points here. So my total points is going to be 82. And that's a letter grade B for me. And I just graded this whiskey several points higher than Proper 12. And Proper 12 has been one of my favorite Irish whiskeys, but I really think Sexton is a better drink. But if I did a side by side with those two, I'm not sure which would win. And really, I would need Proper 12, Sexton, and Bushmills Black. So there you go. If you want to try an Irish single malt, I don't think you can go wrong with the Sexton. This is enjoyable. It's smooth. It's slightly sweet. It's got that sherry finish that kind of gives it a little extra. And the bottle will draw a crowd. If you go to a party with this, people are going to say, "Wow, what'd you bring?" If you're a bourbon or a rye guy like me, I think this whiskey would be a good step into the single malt world of Irish Scotch realm. Okay, rather than going straight to Scotch, I would suggest this one first. Single malts are very different animals than bourbons and ryes, and even there's a lot of American single malts now, and I've had one local Texas single malt that's really good. But this bottle is almost all gone, and so am I going to buy another? I think there's a new bottle that's out there for this year. It's a Walking Dead edition of the Sexton. If I find that bottle, I think I'm going to have to buy it. Yep. That's kind of lame. I know you buy a whiskey for the bottle, but oh well. But I'm just not a huge fan of Irish whiskeys. I mean, I pretty much only drink Irish in March, and that's about it. So, I'm just not that into Irish whiskeys, but I think I would buy Sexton again if I find that other bottle. All right, well, that about does it for this time. So I'm going to go ahead and say that StabtheDragon is going to sign out, and we'll be seeing you next time. Thanks.